All right, welcome to the kissfaq podcast. Today's topic is Molimo. And I've just been digging back into what was the Rockstars radio show from March 1971. Just for fun, I wanted to, number one, see if I could clean up that audio. The track East of Yesterday isn't of the very best quality, so I wanted to mess around with that. Unfortunately, that was a fail, but it got me in the mood just to talk about that broadcast, as it's the only official material released by that group. Well, it wasn't even released by the group, but the only official material from the group that was, in essence, broadcast. So in some places, it was broadcast on March the 27th. The radio show LP itself said that it was to be broadcast the week of March the 22nd, 1971, and side B the following week on the 29th. But how radio stations would have used that, I guess, back in the early 70s wouldn't have been any way to audit that to see that they were following those instructions. Now, years ago when this surfaced, a collector did get a copy of it with the sheet, with the cue sheet, which is a very cool thing. I looked for years and years and years for this and never did manage to find a copy for myself. So we only have what circulates as a result of their kind transfer of that material. One thing to note on it is that I don't think the transfer is the very highest quality, whether that's down to the equipment used, no way to know. Whether it's down to the condition of the vinyl, again, no way to know. I think it's probably the latter because of some of the sonic artifacts that are, included in that, or someone needed a needle change. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We get to hear the interview, we get to hear the analysis after the fact, and we get to hear a song. And while the song is kind of abused, it's still very serviceable. So just looking through some of my notes here, again, it was scheduled for broadcast March the 22nd and 29th, 1971. It's the final segment on side one, which includes Richard Robinson, who's married to Lisa, also a rock journalist, doing an interview with 4 of the 6 members of Molimo. And then they go into the studio cut East of Yesterday. Let's listen to that interview segment.
Since I met you, I can't shake this feeling.
Molimo is with us today. I'm Richard Robinson. You're listening to Rockstars, news from New York, London, and Los Angeles. And we'll be talking with them in a moment, right after I remind you that Rockstars is a special news service from Physohex, the antibacterial skin cleanser used by surgeons to thoroughly cleanse, degerm, and provide hours of lasting protection. Today I'm talking to Molimo, which is made up of 6 people total, of which 4 are present with us today. Ace, who's the lead guitarist, Chris Murphy, who's one of the lead singers, Roy Singer, who's a keyboard player, and Tom Ellis, who's another lead singer. We'll be hearing East of Yesterday in a moment. First of all, let me ask you, you're all from New York City, and you've obviously been spending a great deal of time on a vocal level, working out the songs and stuff. What motivated them of having, a full top end of a voice type thing?
Well, it was conscious in that the vocals center around Tom and myself. We've been singing together for almost 2 years. Long before we were in this group, we were in other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And
were you working acoustically or
both.
with electric?
We've done folk stuff and rock stuff and a little bit of everything in the past.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tom, what were the problems on a technical level of getting a sound system, so forth and so on, that would project?
Well, we had to try a lot of different things, a lot of different people that worked out and didn't work out. A lot of different amplification systems. You learn to use what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. As far as musicians are concerned, backing you up, Tom, is there a particular type of musician who is more agreeable or at least more adaptable to working with voices as opposed to thinking lead guitar is, like the most important thing?
Yes.
I think Ace could...
what is it? What is it like? When you're gonna be down a lot.
Well, I'm
smoothly
getting
behind.
used to it. I used to be more into just like a heavy volume thing, on that kind of trip. But since I got into Molimo, I've learned to regulate my volume much better.
Roy, as a keyboard player and also a songwriter, is it possible to exploit the keyboard, or use the keyboard more effectively against voices than against other instruments in terms of harmonies and melodic lines and so forth?
Yeah, I think so. That weave in and out between the voices.
Now you're writing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you write with the what you're eventually going to be doing on stage in Mon as an instrumentalist, as a musician, for your own particular keyboard?
Yeah, pretty much of a framework, and then I'll let the group sort of take it over too.
I'd like to thank Ace, Chris, Roy, and Tom for being with us today. And we'll be back with Molimo and East of Yesterday in a moment.
All right, so it's cool to hear the creative core of the group, Tom and Roy, who are the primary songwriters, and Christine. Tom Ellis, he was a vocalist with the group, and Roy Singer, the piano player. I think it was Tom wrote most of the lyrics, and Roy was responsible primarily for musical direction for them. Obviously, for us, the most important part of that clip is not Christine, the other co-vocalist in the group, the female voice, who is very much a Grace Slick she gets pigeonholed with Grace Slick because there were very few women in rock at that time who were singing in that style. Certainly Janis was not, Shocking Blues vocalist was not, and those are really the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. I know people perhaps have a more diverse musical vocabulary, can probably come up with some others to use for comparative purposes. But Ace gets to talk a little bit about his approach to music, and the other guys are laughing when they're talking about how he fits in. So I thought his little section there was, kind of hilarious. You get to hear where he was coming from, that he was on a heavy volume trip previously. Well, Molimo were heavy volume as well, so he hadn't exactly moved away from that with them. As people would get to hear if you heard them live, they were very loud. They were very theatrical in a Broadway sense. That's where Tom and Christine's vocalizing were coming from and contrasting. It was very, I don't want to say cinematic, but I guess Broadway's the best way to kind of describe it. It's very show music, and it's not surprising with some of the things. I mean, Tom later did Kennedy Center stuff, singing Bernstein. So he was doing stage, and it's very apparent, that this is an art group. It's very late 60s in that sense, in that it fits in to the same scene at the Gate as Chelsea, as Velvet Underground, as that kind of more experimental side of music. So I guess you have to be there to fully appreciate it, and I certainly wasn't. So it's way out of my league. So they didn't have any success. They recorded the demo for RCA, and this broadcast really comes too late to really help the band or save them. In April 1971, they opened for Phil Oakes at Hunter College, and the New York Times savaged them. That was a very incompatible kind of pairing, even though Phil was moving away from more folk into rock and roll, I guess, or into electrified. He was doing the Bob Dylan at Newport type trip for himself. But again, the incompatible pairing, they were called loud, offensive rock band with a girl singer who screamed unpredictably during the songs and once between songs. And that reviewer also melodramatically noted that a large number of people left the hall and took refuge in the lounges or lobby. He makes it sound like they were hiding behind sofas. And, the Village Voice did say in another review that people were sticking cotton balls in their ears in the bathroom, cringing at the volume. So Molimo or Kiss? Well, Molimo was loud. Kiss was certainly thunder rock. So I think Ace was right at home there as well. So Molimo broke up soon after that April 1971 show. Interesting to note is, again, the version of East of Yesterday is not the greatest audio quality. But it gives you a picture of what Molimo's sound was. I think better than the excerpts from the demo acetate that circulate. But the worst part of the recording is that Ace's solo is somewhat muted with a, added in commercial right at that point. But you don't really lose a whole lot of it, to be perfectly honest. It's just more an annoyance. And again, you get to hear plenty of lead work throughout. Again, the quality on that is not such that you can really focus in and try and analyze his playing comparatively to what he'd be doing with Kiss. And again, different band, different scene, different controlling factors come into play. So let's listen to the original transfer of the song, and this is strictly from that transfer that circulates. I did try and do stuff with it, but there's just some frequency buzz in the wrong frequency range that really screws up trying to really do a whole lot with it. And that's, again, thanks to the original person who did the transfer and shared it. It made it into circulation, probably because of unscrupulous backstabbers, but there you go. That's what happens. Here's the song.
Here's Molimo with The East of Yesterday.
Western wind, reach out and touch my mind. Southern breeze, fill our heart with doubt. Northern gale, set my feet a-wandering to the gardens east of yesterday. East of yesterday, my rivers ran wild, past the weathered pine trees and the crusted mountain peaks, and past the yellow sun and the house where Snow White sleeps, past the silver highways, the wooded glens and byways. A western wind, reach out and touch my mind. Southern breeze, fill our heart with doubt. Northern gale, set my feet a-wandering to the gardens east of yesterday. East of yesterday, my rivers ran wild, past the sweating oil towns and the smoke-choked steamers, and past the age of innocence and the fantasies of dreamers, past the frozen shadows and past the broken bridge, and past the dirty billboards and past the jagged ridge.
Molimo. This special news service has been furnished by Physohex, the gentle antibacterial skin cleanser that cleans better than soap, helps protect the skin against irritation, drying, and cracking. I'm Richard Robinson. Join me next week for more news from the world of rock. Now back to Molimo.
A western wind, reach out and touch my mind. Southern breeze, fill our heart with doubt. Northern gale, set my feet a-wandering to the gardens east of yesterday. East of yesterday, I was a
All right, so East of Yesterday was one of the very first songs that vocalist and primary lyricist Tom Ellis wrote, and it described his journey to New York City from the Midwest. He'd grown up in Iowa, Kansas. And the first track on side B of the radio show is a group of young people being polled by Richard Robinson about their thoughts of the music that they've just heard the previous week from Molimo. And they clearly cotton on to some of the folk aspects and the acid rock vibe of the music. And Christine's vocal gets noted, again, with that comparison with the Jefferson Airplane type music. It's terse, but just for the sake of completeness, here's that section of the radio show as well.
The Rockstars panel talks about Molino. I'm Richard Robinson, you're listening to Rockstars. And Rockstars is a special news service from Physohex. It's a sensible medical way to care for your complexion. Use it every day. You'll be glad you did. Today we're going to be talking about Molino and be talking with Anne Richard, who goes to Music and Art High School and plays a little guitar on the side, and Mike Cooper, who goes to City College. He's a freshman there. Let me ask you your reaction, just a quick reaction to Molino. Mike, what did you think of it? Just a general thought.
Well, I like this type of music because it sounds most likely like Peter, Paul and Mary. and has a very familiar background.
Right. Anne, how did you feel? Just a quick.
Yeah. She sounds a lot like Mary, anyhow. Except that they get mixed up a little bit into some acid rock, which is very strange considering the vocal, but that's okay.
Yeah. Mike, how do you like harmonic singing, very melodic type stuff?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. What about you, Anne?
Well, of course.
Yeah. What about electric as opposed to say that same song, that same melody and words against being played with folk guitars behind it? Would you feel that it was a better song, or you would enjoy it more if it wasn't electric, Anne?
Yeah, because I think they could think about what they were singing more if they were doing it acoustically, but you can't tell from just hearing it once, really.
Excuse me. What do you feel, in terms of folk music as such, and the advent of rock and roll music? Do you think it sort of hurt folk music in a way because people, because they want to be popular and want to get into groups, are forced into a situation of going electric even though their music may be essentially, folk oriented?
I don't think so. I think musicians just play what they want to play most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you think that they're influenced at all by, by what's surrounding them, that type of thing?
Everybody's influenced by what's surrounding them.
True enough. Mike, what other groups do you like in this vein of, very forceful melodic type songs?
Well, Santana I like very much, and who else? Other type of groups like.
Yeah. What about you, Anne?
Well, I like James Taylor most now.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for talking about Molino, Mike and Anne, for being with us and being the Rockstars panel today. This special news service edition of Rockstars has been furnished by Fisohex. That is a real surprise for you. It really works to help keep your complexion clear if you wash with Fisohex every day. I'm Richard Robinson, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow for more inside news from the world of rock. Right now, here's the #1 song in town.
All right, it's fair to note that another version of East of Yesterday does exist in far better quality. And what makes that one interesting, other than the unmolested solo section, and again, you're not really missing that much of that solo, but it does have an intro section of 15 seconds that's completely unfeatured on the radio show. And it's a piano keyboard type ambient, atmospheric keyboard section that runs 15 seconds through that single snare strike that starts the song. So that would be on any archival release from Molimo should one happen. All right, that's the only full Molimo recording to currently circulate, and I'll just give you a little tease of that hover master of the second version. Molimo, East of Yesterday.